to thank Kevin and his team for this event. He has put a tremendous amount into this, and a lot of his own money, and was in fact facing a terrible loss on this event at one time. Fortunately, due to the sun and a bit of PR, that has come good. Now, I thought I'd dress in uniform today, just to show you that MIB do exist, not an urban myth. But we will be going into information which is 2 levels deeper than the President of the United States currently. Pay serious attention to this information. For those who are here from the MOD, I welcome them. There are 2. I know who you are. I will not identify you. It was my job for 50 years. Now you are doing it, not me. I retired last year. This is a bit deeper than Nick Pope. Lots of things are deeper than Nick Pope. Nick does a good job. Right, now we have a minor problem with vision here, but I'm hoping you can see. I don't trust electronics, so I use manual methods. Let's see if we can do this. I'm right-handed. Take these silly things off. My mission is to save this planet. Your mission is to help me. Your mission is to tell the world what is going on now, because the now is highly irrelevant. You do not have much now left. This is not an overstatement. The net is full of doomsayers. I am an optimist. I've always been an optimist. I started advising Her Majesty's government when I was 17 years old, when I gave to Sir Solly Zuckerman the current oil pollution clean-up techniques for free. They were sold to BP Oil 1 year later for £250,000, when £250,000 was a lot of money. I gave that. I have given a lot. Today, we're going to cut to the chase. I'm not even going to entertain the thought of, do they exist? What a silly question. What a stupid question. It insults your intelligence. We're going to go right to the core of the problem. Now, first of all, I want to give you some logistics. You are fascinated by the machines. The machines have been around for a very long time, as has been documented by these grand researchers who have gone before me, and upon whose shoulders I stand. One of my jobs was to research what these guys were doing, because these guys were doing the work that intelligence agencies should have been doing, but they didn't need to, because all we had to do was listen to these guys, who were doing the footwork, the field work, and collecting the data. Because the data is unclear. And it has been deliberately unclear for millennia. You are deliberately kept in the dark. A few of you understand, and a few of those people who do understand have paid for it with their life. There have been 3 attempts on my life in the last 5 years. I'm an old fox. Take me down and there's trouble. Real trouble. There's not just me. Not just me. The basic flying saucer, what a silly name, forms a toroid of electromagnetic energy, principally in the magnetic range, for the first function of its operation. I will not use the word flight. They do not fly. They translate. Here, you have a particular electronic point of focus. Here you have a rotational magnetic field. Here you have a contradictory electromagnetic field. this gives you the fundamental shape of a flying saucer. It is constructed according to the physics which is extremely well known throughout most of the known universe. How do you think that in the billions and billions of stars that you can perceive on any one night by taking a pair of binoculars and looking at the sky, that you, the earthlings, are the only biological life out there in here? Don't be silly. Apart from going into other dimensions, which is a whole range of physics difficult to explain, but I shall try. You will notice that on all craft there are 3 emission transmitters on the bottom. They may form a triangle or they may form part of a sphere with inserts within it. They are fundamental to the physics of the function of the mechanics. This has been known for a very long time. A word of warning: if you see any craft on the ground, do not go near it. Because around the side, particularly on the triangular craft, you will have ion emission ports, sometimes thought to be portholes. They are not. Their function is to emit mesons and ions in an ionic form at very high voltage to create a toroid of ionized gas, which is not technically a gas because it's a plasma. What does that do? It can do a number of things. It can create above the craft a reduced atmospheric pressure, which is the same as what you get on an aerofoil, so you get upward lift by virtue of the air underneath pushing up. This is very old. It was used by ancient civilizations to move stones, which is why the stones had to have rollers underneath them to allow the air to get under to push up. All you do is reduce the air pressure on the upside and it will lift off the ground. It is the same as you putting something in water where a block of wood will float on water because of displacement. It's very simple stuff. Why have you not got it in your civilization now? Because you are not intended to. 2 reasons. 1, it is considered by many people that the human civilization is not capable or indeed responsible enough to have this information. And 2, various cabals and cartels have vested interests in you working with fossil fuels and everything else. As the sponsor of Nikola Tesla said just before his character assassination demise, I can't put a meter on that. Tesla, as you probably know, was about to give the world a box about the size of a large chest, which would in fact give household electricity for life for nothing. You can't put a meter on that. When a craft is on the ground, it may have legs. These legs are insulators. The last thing a UFO wants to do is touch down on the ground because it will earth. It loses a lot of energy. It would much rather hover at approximately 1 meter or more. 1 meter of air gives you very good insulation, and it will basically there not lose energy. When various contactees have been invited aboard a craft, they have been lifted into the craft, either manually or directly using a tractor beam. This tractor beam produces light. It will come out of the craft very slowly because it is contained with a magnetic tube and is the same as the cathode ray tube in effect, although I'm using a metaphor as on the old television sets. You can control light by subliminal magnetic fields. You can hang on to the light. Einstein, in his last years, wanted to change all of his formulas, and they wouldn't let him because it was in the textbooks. So you can't change the textbooks, can you? I've lost it again. Are we there? Yeah, okay. And he wanted to change the textbooks because we now know from clinical and laboratory experiments that light can be slowed down. It can also be speeded up. So the figure of the speed of light is in fact a fallacy. Let me give you a little bit of physics on this. Light works as a wave or a particle depending on your point of view. A wave, a sine wave. If you take another sine wave and you counter this in this plane of this board, you will get 0. But you will produce a different kind of wave in a right angle plane to the one you have just created. This is to do with scalar technology. Scalar waves you cannot usually detect, but they are very, very real. And if I can give you the example, if you have a copper tube, and you have water in this tube, and you know this from the hydraulics on your brakes on your car, if you push here, the effect at the other end is immediate and is exactly the same. It does not actually mean that this molecule travels to there, it just means that moves when that moves. A scalar wave moves in exactly the same function, so scalar waves move throughout the universe instantly. There is no speed of light. You don't have to take X number of years to go between A and B, you can just be there. Now the ancients knew this. The ancients knew this. The ancients could do this. They can do it now. There are still ancients around. I will be doing in the morning a 3-hour session from 10 in this room to 1 for more detail. So don't worry if this, if you think you're losing the plot on this, don't think that you can't come back and get more detail on it. I want to go back and change tack here because I want to tell you where you came from and why. Your solar system is not part of the Milky Way. Big mistake. The Milky Way it's not a swastika. That's an old Indian symbol, anyway. Is here, in this plane. It is surrounded by another galaxy. And I can't represent this in 2D, but if you're in 3D, you would detect that if you look out from the surface of the Earth, and you can see the Milky Way up there, and you're working this plane here, or from the Sun, you would detect that the Milky Way is in a different plane to where you are here. Therefore, your solar system is not inherently part of what is up there at the wrong angle. This is very important. Because the other galaxy is a dwarf brown star galaxy. It's much older than the Milky Way. And it is in a process of decay. So your solar system with Sol at the center is in decay. But don't worry, this is going on for millions and millions of years. It's been in decay for a long time. When you're talking galactic time, you have to expand your concept into a huge time span. What does this mean? It means that the biology that you see naturally on this planet is primitive in its context to where you are today. How did that happen? Because after stitching, in terms of worlds in collision, when you have two galaxies in collision, you are going to get proximity, lack of separation of objects in those two galaxies. They are going to interact. And one of them, the superior gravimetric and etheric galaxy, will absorb the lesser body. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Cyclical. Everything is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. Nibiru, Planet X, all of that stuff, it reflects this concept. Your solar system has been changing for millennia. And Mars, as we now know, was also a seat of biological life. Bacteria has been found, identified, water, even artifacts that are anomalous to a barren desert are there now. You can go on NASA and various pages and find them. But it has suffered problems. Mars lost its atmosphere some 450,000 years ago. And what happened? Those people, perhaps in association with other people, other entities, moved to different places because their own planet had been hit by a disaster of cataclysmic volume. They could not stay. Some of their facilities are still there, underground or covered by dust, and some of them have been restored, but basically the surface civilization vanished. And many of them came here. Are you Martians? Possibly, but you may also be more, because the people who came to Mars came from elsewhere. This transition of humanity is a universal fact. These things bring up emotions in me because I remember them. I was there. I say to you in honest sincerity, when I arrive, it is not good news. Because you need to know. Today you will learn things that you need to know. You have not been told. They do not trust you. They think you will panic. I think you are big enough to handle this. Now, going back to the history, which it's important you understand. The people who came from Mars and elsewhere and colonized this planet of Earth, third from the sun, wasn't always third from the sun, but let's call it third from the sun today, needed resources. They needed somewhere to live, but they also needed resources. They needed water, they needed an atmosphere, which they had lost. They needed gold, not because it was valuable. Value of gold is now a modern concept. The Inca used gold as a malleable commodity They didn't value it like you do as coin or bullion. But the sky people needed gold for an even more valuable purpose. Two purposes. One, monoatomic gold. Not the gold stuff that you have on your fingers. That is a combination of atoms to form ordinary gold that conveys electricity, as you know very well. Monoatomic gold, by definition of the word, is one atom. It's white and it's ceramic. It's very important, and you can eat the damn stuff. And if you use that in combination with other DNA, RNA techniques, you can produce longevity. Phenomenal longevity, because your DNA which if you stretched it out, now any one of you from any one of your cells would go between here and halfway to Mars. That's how much information is in a one single piece of DNA. And at the end, there is a function which is important in the DNA to the RNA interchange. And it goes RNA, DNA, DNA, RNA ad infinitum. And this function at the end is instrumental in that happening. As you get older, you lose bits of this off the end. Until when you're about 80, you might be down to 1. All this has gone. And you are left with what you have. Because as I sit here now and look at you, every one of you, bar certain cells of your brain, are no more than 6 months old. Because you have been rebuilt naturally by your body, RNA, DNA, RNA, DNA, over 6 months. So you have a new body. Why do you get old? Because of what happens here, that we are getting damage in the RNA, DNA. And so the damage blueprint is remembered and you get aging. There's been a recent study found that they could actually find in here a switch, which in theory, if they move this switch, they could switch off aging. That is the claim. Not quite sure whether they've found the right switch, but my God, there's 7 billion on the planet now. What happens if we give everybody longevity, which we'll come to in a minute. Big problem. Now, what's all this to do with aliens? Because aliens have DNA. They might have the same DNA, but it's damn similar to yours, because you are principally a combination of primates and alien. You are 98.4% primate. You are the remainder alien. Prior to the arrival of the colonists, you were, or whatever was there, 100% primate, and you were doing quite well. And then this happened, and 1.6% of other injection was made. Not necessarily at the one time, over a number of times. Both faults of both races are incorporated in you. Both faults and both advantages. You are durable, but you are also vulnerable. The alien is both durable and vulnerable, and you combine both. The characteristics of that I shall go into in a moment. I've got to be careful of my time. Time. Let's do time. Time is an illusion. There is no such thing as time. All you have is a sequence of events which you call time. An atomic clock in London at Heathrow is on the tarmac. And there's another one on the tarmac. You put this one on, say, a supersonic fighter, and you fly it around the world. And you look at the time on this one compared to that one, it's different. Even Einstein told you that. It's different because the action of velocity changes time. And we're talking about the ability of one set of sequences to marry to another set of sequences. How many of your clocks in your houses and works always tell the same time? How many of you have gone to bed and woke up with your watch telling you it was a slightly different time from when you went to bed according to everybody else's clocks? Maybe you changed the time because in you is a resonance frequency which can change time. Time and space are linked together. You talk about aliens. You are aliens. All of you. The only people indigenous to this planet are the animals. They're the people who belong here, not you. That's why you have so much difficulty with the place. You may be aware that the earth has expanded. From the sun, you get rays and dust and material and energy which is constantly being absorbed by the Earth's interior and causing the Earth to expand. This is a common factor to all planetary bodies. Hence, when the dinosaurs were around, you had that amount of G, that amount of gravity. Then you had more G, then you had more G. If you take a brontosaurus, if indeed they existed, it could not stand on your planet today. Its legs would collapse because it lived at a time when the gravity was less, because the mass was less. You are in constant change, but it happens cyclically over time. Aliens, as you call them, are aware of that. They came here, and round about 250,000 years ago, when they were mining gold and living relatively in small numbers, because when you talk about alien civilizations compared to the human civilization, you are talking a vast difference in numbers. You're talking about numbers of UFOs in the skies. How many actually are there up there compared to the aircraft that I see every day fly over my house? Just a few. Sometimes there are more than just a few. 250,000 years ago, they decided to create not a slave but a helper. This is documented. Read your ancient texts, you will find it there. And they created man, new man, after the gods with a small g.